So it's been a little bit less than 2 months, and it's been 83,000. So
that's
in
crazy.
his first month.
In his first month.
With no prior experience and no money down.
Now, yeah, and it sounds amazing. It is amazing. I don't want to get the impression
No, it is amazing. Let's not sell yourself short.
Nathanael, he, like we said, he didn't waste any time. So he ended up actually went and got 3 deals within his first, I don't even think like 2 months. And the deals that he got, we'll dig it. Some of them were pretty interesting, but we'll let him describe it in more detail. So
let's go through them one at a time. Tell me a little bit about your first deal, Nathanael.
So my first deal was really exciting because it's just like an amazing property. Here it's located in North Georgia mountains. And it's just kind of one of those properties you look at and you're like, wow, like that, I would love to stay there. And I so happened to kind of know the property owner. And I mentioned to you earlier that me and my wife, we have a wedding. Oh, my dog is. We have a wedding videography business. And she was interested at one time at using her rental as like a wedding venue kind of thing. So we had talked about that in the past, so we had a little connection. So I knew she was on VRBO, but she wasn't on Airbnb. And I'm thinking, man, now learning what I learned about Airbnb, I'm like, how is she not on Airbnb? Like, what is she doing? So I reached out to her and I was like, hey, do you mind if I tried running your listing on Airbnb? And keep in mind that this house is, it's already completely furnished. It'd probably take you guys probably know better estimates than I do what it costs to furnish a place like that, but probably at least $50,000 to furnish.
Oh, well, the way they furnish it, yeah.
Minimum.
Yeah. No, this is like a multi-million-dollar mountain lodge. It's not a standard property that most people start with their first one, but Nathanael just decided to go into the deep end of the pool right away. So
yeah, so I think where Michael and Katrina I don't believe I would have sealed this deal without their help. I really don't believe that. The property owners they're both attorneys. So when I went to their house, they grilled me pretty hard, and I didn't have a property to fall back on. I couldn't tell them yeah, I have this experience with this house, or I've made a single sale or a single reservation on Airbnb I never had. But Michael and Katrina really helped prep me for that meeting. So we had a meeting. They said yes. After about a million questions later, they grilled me pretty hard. But hey, we sealed the deal, and it's been pretty awesome ever since. They've been really happy. What
does that mean? How do the numbers look?
Well, just off that property alone, I wrote this down at some point, but just off that property alone, I believe it was the first month. Yeah, the first month we generated $43,000 in revenue for that one listing.
That's
in his first month.
In his first month.
With no prior experience and no money down.
Now, yeah, and it sounds amazing. It is amazing. I don't want to get the impression
No, it is amazing. Let's not sell yourself short.
Yeah.
I don't want to, people watching to think I made that $43,000. We have a partnership agreement, so I'm earning a percentage off of those bookings. But
what's your percentage?
So we have an agreement right now where I earn for the first 3 months. We're doing a trial period with them, so they wanted to kind of test me out for the first 3 months. So okay, we'll give you 10% of the earnings the first 3 months, and if you do good, we'll bump you up to 15% after that. And then if we still like you after 6 months, then you can take over our VRBO listing as well. So that's kind of the goal, is to, I think they wanted to just, since I never had anything to show them prior, I think they just kind of wanted to try it out. But hey, I'm happy with 10% of $43,000.
Give me a ballpark of how much time you think it took to generate 10% of 43 grand?
That's a good question. So I think the initial setup and everything and trying to get this stuff figured out with the partnership, it definitely required some work, just because it's my first one, especially, and getting all the back end stuff set up for my other listings as well. It's so hard for me to think about how much time actually took to set up that one property, because I'm doing 3 at once, but I will say that the initial setup being the most amount of time, I think moving forward to manage this property, I would be surprised if it takes, a couple hours a week to manage.
40 hours or less on your first week with the learning curve, or first few weeks?
Yeah.
So 4,300 for that type of time commitment under typical standards would still be considered a relatively high rate of pay, it seems to me.
Yeah, and I'm not really, I'm not too worried really about the initial setup time it takes to do this stuff, because I see the long-term vision. You know, it's kind of like this one-time setup stuff, and once you get the ball rolling, it's just like, all right, let's add more properties. But yeah,
I think it's a really important point. And yet, obviously, those who haven't broken through the entrepreneurial barrier yet, these shorter term levels of commitment and early investments end up being deal makers or breakers for some, whether they want to get into the model or not. So you had nothing out of pocket other than what you paid Michael and Katrina for their assistance, right? What would be that was on that one deal? That first deal, you didn't put anything into it? Okay.
Yeah. The only thing I put in was I hired like a really high-end photographer editor to mess around with some of the photos, but it was like $40.
Okay. Okay.
It was pretty significant Yeah. $40.
You had a lot on the line there, buddy. So so how's it gone since then? I mean, obviously I feel like it's kind of almost humorous talking about, the 2 weeks since then, but give me kind of the breakdown on the other two properties.
Yeah. So the other property that I had coming up alongside with that one, I think I launched it like a few days after that first one. That one is not so much of a luxurious property. It's more just like a pretty solid 4-bedroom house. But what is kind of outstanding about the partnership deal is that the owner has like 25 other properties. And he's like in this season where he's kind of older guy, and he's so tired of dealing with tenants and like the turnovers of like every year I'll have to fill my properties back up. And he's like, he even told me, he's like, you are an answered prayer to what I've been looking for. So he's wanting to turn his rental properties into short-term rentals for me to manage. So just the fact that he has that kind of base gets me really excited, because it's like, I don't even know if I have to go looking for other property owners. It's like these between these three, I think I got my hands full for a while. So that was
you're like the guy that sits at the blackjack table and gets 2 or 3 blackjacks in a row and just thinks that's how gambling works out, right? You're jaded for life.
Yeah, for real. Well, I was just going to say, that's the unique thing that we tell people, is that when you're first getting started, like, because people think with the amount of properties we manage, you must have so many different people. You must have
24 individual landlords that you partner with. We're like, no,
it's really
like on one hand, pretty much we count.
Yeah, like you really actually don't need that many people to work with in order to, basically have the future trajectory for your company kind of mapped out for a while. So, in Nathaniel's case here, quite literally in that example with that gentleman, like he may be kind of the last tenant that guy ever has to worry about. And, we always tell people in the beginning, like, because of the dynamics of this, of how much value you can add to someone, like, it's hard for people to understand, like, well, why would someone work with me when I don't like have prior experiences? Like, you really don't. And Nathaniel's a perfect example of this.
But you're providing a solution.
Yeah.
That's what, you're providing a service and a solution, and no one else is really doing that out there. So that's huge.
Yeah, and I will say this also, the owner of the Lantern Lodge, or the big mountain property in Georgia, they told me, they're like, Nathanael, I don't want you to get too busy, because we're looking at a property right now that will keep you busy for the next 15 years. And so, and they even told me that, like, every time we talk, I guess they're looking at investing in like a serious, I can't even imagine what it is based off the way they described it. But they said, every time we talk about investing in this property, you come to mind, because since you're able to take off the workload off of our other property, it allows us to, go into other, invest in other properties, which is just such in my opinion, is such an essential part of this business, and what a service that we offer is that these people who are, these multi-millionaires that can just, spit out multi-million-dollar properties, they shouldn't be spending their time responding to guests, messages on Airbnb and VRBO and all that stuff. So I think that we're providing them a real service to help them leverage their time most wisely.
I totally agree. Let's segue that into a quick 30-second synopsis of the business model. Michael, Katrina, can you guys just run through for anybody who hasn't seen previous episodes, we've obviously highlighted the word partner many times in this conversation already. Give us a bit of an outline on what this even is for people who are new.
100%. Yeah. Thanks, Matt. So basically, with short-term rentals, the dynamics in play here is that because of how this business works, you don't actually have to own any real estate yourself. So essentially what's happening here is we're basically controlling someone else's property through the way of agreements rather than having to actually have ownership over the property. So there's two ways to do this. Well, there's actually multiple ways. We'll just give two examples. So the first way is, kind of the traditional model, which what's called rental arbitrage. So rather than actually having a mortgage, and all that stuff and owning the property, you're basically controlling it through the way of a lease. So you're basically paying, per month, say whatever, $1,500 to $2,000, whatever the rent is. So you're paying per month, but then you're reselling the nights on a day-by-day basis. So then let's just say $1,500 here, you make $4,000 here. Obviously there'll be some costs, utilities, maids, all that kind of stuff, and then you're just capturing that difference there. So that'd be one example. In Nathanael's case, when he started learning about partnerships from us, he thought, well, the thing with leases is that as you grow, you're also increasing your risk because your fixed costs are also expanding. So the neat thing about partnerships is that dynamic actually doesn't exist at all, because you actually don't even have to pay a lease. And in some cases, depending on how you structure the transactions, you may not even have to come out of pocket for virtually anything.
So what we mean by that, you don't have to pay for a damage deposit because you're partnering with the landlord. You don't have to pay for furnishings sometimes as well. Like the first example that Nathanael said, like he just partnered with them, right? There's already furnished in that case. And also you're not having to pay that monthly overhead. So your risk is reduced immensely. And even
are
on
you
the
still coming in with first month, last month?
No.
There's no lease. There's no lease, right? So it's based purely on the activity. You're simply taking over the hospitality role versus your partner who's adopting the ownership role and the responsibility of note repayment and furnishing. And in your case, based on a previous episode, you've even had homeowners who have hired you for your design expertise to actually go forward with the furnishing of their houses, right? So there was an additional revenue stream in it for you two.
That's 100% correct. And the thing is, like, a lot of people look at that and go, like, who would do that? Who would do that? And why would somebody do that? And the thing, like, as Nathanael pointed out, people that don't own investment real estate don't understand sometimes all the challenges, the pitfalls, the headaches, and the things that can come up when you're trying to manage long-term tenants. So when you come into the equation and say, hey, I can alleviate all of those concerns, plus actually give you a lot of additional benefits with having your property cleaned, sometimes multiple times a week. We'll take care of all the minor maintenance for you. If we actually partner, I'll give you a financial statement every single month so you can see how well your investment is performing. And then we'll automate the payment to you so you don't ever have to worry about, hustling people down and trying to chase rent. So just to kind of finish off the other example of it, it's just with partnerships, basically what's happening there, rather than paying a fixed monthly price, you're just essentially splitting on either revenues or profits or however you set up the agreement.
So really you're profitable from day one because you don't have any costs going in. So, if you are, and you can furnish a place like the rental arbitrage model, but there is a little bit of that payback period. So if you partner, you're profitable from day one.
Yeah. So like literally the first month in, as you start generating revenue from you, the manager, you're like immediately in the black. So there's no cost of capital or having to recoup your initial, like you're immediately month one making income.
Yeah. And we go further into these types of business related semantics in our other episodes. Make sure you guys check those out. I want to get back to Nathanael quickly. Thank you so much for those details, guys. What was your third deal? They mentioned you have 3 deals now in the market?
Yeah, so my third deal is probably the one I'm most excited about. This is another really high-end property on the lake, Lake Lanier.
Just a little
high end.
Yeah, it's got, an indoor pool, basketball court, hot tub, just really, really, really cool property. And this one was my easiest too, believe it or not. I think when you have, yeah. So the first one was a little hard, imagining like
sounded hard.
Yeah, a little bit hard landing a deal with someone when you have nothing to show them. Like, okay. But this one, I kind of had some properties to fall back on and show them, like, yeah, this is what we did for this other property. We hope that, we can give you similar results. And I met with the property owner probably for like 5 minutes. She invited me over to the house and she's like, you want a tour? And I'm like, sure. And then we walked the house and she's like, all right, sounds good. And I'm like, didn't ask me anything. And I'm like, do you want to know?
Just
like,
where to sign.
I know, like, do you want me to know? Like, she just didn't seem to care about anything, really. But she's a really nice lady. And that one's really cool because we seem to be getting longer term booking, like more like a week-long bookings on that one because I guess just because of the location and stuff. So, yeah, I'm really excited about that one, too. It's just a really awesome property.
And what is give me a sense of ballpark numbers? What would be a typical good month from that property?
Oh man, is it okay if I take a second to look this up for what we've generated real quick?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Because that way I could give you a little more accurate what we've booked for them real quickly.
So Nathanael, while you're looking that up, I'm going to add something here. For those of you who are new to Michael and Katrina Stead, these guys have, probably blown all expectations away by way of what is possible in the short-term rental partnership business. They're, I would imagine, sort of leading some of the leaders of this concept. In our previous videos, we touch on the fact that these two, broke 7 figures as they rounded their 24th month in business. They did all of that with, less than 20 properties. What you guys had 12 by April of 2020, right? Then you grew that to 16 by August, I think, when we first spoke. I stumbled into their post on Facebook, which is how we became connected. Might have even been the same post that Nathanael found them through, which was, look how incredible we are, and started listing off data points of what they had accomplished, over 1,000 bookings. Here I am with one short-term rental. And while I'm pleased, like I said, it's exceeded my expectations from a positive and a negative standpoint. It's a lot of work. It cost me a lot because I went through the purchase process and I'd always sort of associated ownership from a sort of a kind of traditional long-term landlord standpoint. So I never really pictured having this sort of short-term rental hacking process working for me. But these two are the perfect candidates to guide somebody into their own successful case study because they're living it, they're doing it, and so far we've had a tremendous response in our last handful of videos from people reaching out and wanting assistance. You can get a hold of them by emailing the BNB Bootcamp at VIPfinancialeducation.com email address. They've offered to have correspondence with everybody from our channel. They've over-delivered on that. I've not had one person express any level of disappointment whatsoever, whether people were, getting involved with them or just choosing to take advantage of a complimentary conversation. I have a huge lineup of people that are ready to get involved and are either delayed for one reason or another, or just simply choosing to wait. But I will say that they have graciously extended the discount on their coaching program, which they normally charge $12,000 for, down to just 2/3 of that price. I don't know how long that will last. So if you guys are in any way, shape, or form looking at 2021 as a way to start building your exit strategy or an escape hatch from your day job, and you like the results that someone like Nathanael is getting, I cannot encourage it enough to reach out to Michael and Katrina. Now, my typical approach on this channel is to play the skeptic. So I generally like to be, the worst case scenario guy. How do we work our way backwards from there? Who shouldn't get involved? So it's not common for me to really have this kind of passionate level of endorsement. So take that for what it's worth, guys. But I will say that, I don't anticipate you being the first person that reaches out and then suddenly turns back and sends me some level of disappointment through email that says, hey, these guys let you down. It's not going to happen. So this is the model. This is the model you should be exploring if you want total freedom. And you guys can do this from anywhere in the world, right? So you could literally travel and still generate high 6 figures and then 7 figures per year doing this, correct?
Yeah,
that's correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, like literally later on today here, well, it's actually Katrina's birthday. So we're heading out to
wow, is this a theme for us? I feel like it was your birthday last time.
It was.
Yeah, I guess the timing's funny, but we're yeah, it's 100% correct. We're heading to the mountains for the week, and we
we can go
yeah.
anywhere with a laptop, and we have our team at all of our places where our short-term rentals are set up. And as long as you really have your team and you have your structures and your systems, you can be anywhere in the world, and a good solid internet connection.
Yeah, you got a laptop,
Awesome.
phone, you're good to go. I mean, for us,
Yeah, you just got back from Mexico too, right? Seemingly
yes.
remembering that there was are you guys working anymore at all, or is this is it for you?
Well, I mean, the management meetings we have to determine, time off is quite a bit simpler than it used to be. We just basically say, hey, do you want to go this week? And we say, yes. And then,
approved.
It's approved. So.
All right. I love it. All right, cool. So sorry for that interruption, Nathanael. I thought I'd just chime that in while you were looking that up for us.
Yeah, no worries. I did get the number. So we published that listing about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that one so far has generated $19,753.
Oh my gosh. I feel ashamed. I'm like sitting here almost embarrassed to be with this group of people because my numbers are so pathetic. I'm sitting here psyched about the fact that my house is going to generate 12 grand now while we're gone. I'm thinking, oh man, living and traveling for free, but that's incredible. And this is exactly why I was so excited and pumped for today's conversation, as well as why I would do this way moving forward, because it's easy to admit that maybe I took a slower route than you guys have when it comes to the short-term rental business. Yeah.
You can't go broke making a profit, Matt.
That's true. That's what they say. So as long as I can keep my spending down when we pass through Vegas, we'll, since I don't seem to get multiple blackjacks in a row, it doesn't ever seem to all right. Well, listen, I can't thank you enough for your time today, Nathanael. Let me ask you one last question here. How much of the contribution that Michael and Katrina have made for you and your business in getting you that first deal or your second or third, how much of their coaching has played a role in how far you've come this quickly?
Oh man, it's been huge. I mean, like I said, that very first deal, I feel like a lot, like my success ever since that first deal has it's all been from that one, because if I didn't get that first one, I don't know if I would have gotten the second one or the third one. So it's been so huge. And not only that, it seems like they're doing things so much differently. The whole Airbnb rental arbitrage thing, I love the whole idea, but the way they're doing it is just another level. It's just like a next level up. And so to be around someone with that mentality and not only be around them, but to be coached by them is just, yeah, let's just say when I was questioning whether or not I should have hired them for my coaches, if I could go back in time, I would just, no hesitation.
Yeah, you would have done it sooner. So
yeah.
they charge $12,000 for their coaching. I'm assuming that alone would have been worth it, but to discount it down to $8,000 for our audience, is there any reason that somebody should sit on the other side of this video and think to themselves, hey, this may not pay for itself?
Yeah, I honestly believe if you stick with it, especially long term, I know a lot of people, they get excited about something and then they just give it up in a month or whatever. But going into it, I knew I was in it for the long haul. And I think years down the road from now, that initial investment I made into Michael and Katrina will probably seem like a joke.
What do you anticipate pulling in this year?
That's a good question. I did get that number before our call. What the total amount of sales that that we've generated so far? So it's been a little bit less than 2 months, and it's been 83,000. So I'm hoping. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the year has in store. But hopefully that's a sign of that we're on. Would
you be disappointed if it was less than $250,000?
Well, I definitely want to be disappointed, but I would be surprised at this point, considering that within the first, month and a half that we're coming close to the 100,000 mark. So I'm hoping within 12 months, we'll far exceed that. That's the goal.
Well, good for you. Have you quit your job?
Well, I don't have a job. I have another business, but it kind of runs itself. So that's kind of the business that I am in, is I want to get in a business, figure it out, help it become self-sustainable, and then, off to the next journey I go.
That's great. Well, congrats on all your successes so far. You mind if we check in with you again down the road, see how everything wrapped up for this year?
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to.
Really appreciate that too, because I know, well, you're obviously not busy doing anything but traveling at this point, but I'm sorry to interrupt the vacations, guys, from all of you.
We'll make time for you, Matt.
I appreciate it so much. So Michael and Katrina are going to stick around. I've got some follow-up questions for them regarding specific numbers. What does it take to get your first deal done? Obviously, again, Nathanael is showcasing that there are exceptions to some of these averages, and it may not require anything out of pocket. Some of them might be even a little more expensive out of pocket than the average. But what can people expect from the $8,000 investment they make into the coaching program to the X number of dollars put into each property following? How much does it take to get it rent ready for guests, and so on and so forth. So that's what we're going to be talking about in our next video. Make sure you guys stick around for that one. If you're not already a subscriber, consider doing so. It's free. Nathanael, really, really cool stuff, man. Congrats. Thank you again. And we'll be seeing you down the road, okay?
Awesome. Sounds great. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Keep it up, buddy.
We're so proud
guys,
of you,
we'll see you on the next
Nathanael.
video.
We appreciate it.
So proud of you, Nathanael. Good job.
Thank you.
Awesome
Appreciate
work,
it.
man.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.